The illusion of love. It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. Niccolo Machiavelli wrote those words 500 years ago, advising princes how to rule men. At first glance, it seems cold, cruel, even inhuman. But pause for a moment and ask yourself this: what if Machiavelli wasn't only talking about kings and soldiers? What if he was also talking about you, your relationships, your marriage, your friendships, the very people who say, "I love you"? We've been raised on fairy tales that paint love as pure, unconditional, and eternal. From childhood, we hear stories of soulmates, destined partners, and noble sacrifices. Hollywood reinforces it with movies where lovers endure every hardship, united by some magical force stronger than death. But here is the Machiavellian truth that slices through those illusions. Love is not unconditional. It never has been. Love is a contract of power, a negotiation of needs, a survival mechanism dressed up as poetry. Think of your own life. Remember the moment when your partner suddenly became extra affectionate right before asking you for a favor? Or the friend who showered you with attention until you stopped needing their help? Or the colleague who always smiled and praised you right up until you stood in the way of their promotion? These are not accidents. They are not even betrayals. They are simply demonstrations of Machiavelli's first law of strategic love. Every declaration of love carries an agenda. This is where most people recoil. "That's not true," they protest. "I love my children unconditionally. I'd do anything for them, and yes, it feels unconditional." But look closer. Parents protect their children not only out of affection, but out of genetic survival. Every sacrifice secures a lineage, a purpose, a reason to exist. Even the most selfless acts hide a psychological reward, the sense of being needed, the reassurance that life has meaning. Does this make love fake? Number. It makes it human. And here lies the terrifying, liberating insight Machiavelli forces us to accept. Behind every act of love lies self-interest. Not sometimes, not usually, always. Take romantic love. We like to imagine it as an uncontrollable passion, a cosmic bond. But why do people fall in love? Is it truly destiny, or is it biology and strategy? A man desires beauty because beauty signals health and fertility. A woman may desire status or ambition because those things signal protection and resources. Even in the 21st century, on dating apps, the ancient calculus plays out in the swipe of a finger. We call it attraction. Machiavelli would call it strategy disguised as chemistry. Or consider friendship. Why do we keep certain people close? Because they amuse us, support us, connect us, elevate us. Remove those benefits and most friendships wither. Harsh? Yes. But be honest, how many people from your past faded from your life once they no longer served your growth, your belonging, your needs? This is the illusion of love, that it is some magical force that binds us beyond reason. The reality is simpler and darker. Love persists only as long as it remains useful, emotionally, socially, or materially. Machiavelli saw this in politics, but you can see it every day in your personal life. Let me give you a story. Imagine a man named Lorenzo. In his youth, he is adored for his charm. Friends laugh at his jokes, women swoon at his compliments, colleagues praise his energy. He believes he is truly loved. But when he loses his wealth in a failed venture, watch what happens. His friends vanish. His lovers disappear. His colleagues move on to greener pastures. Why? Because the benefits of loving him have evaporated. Without usefulness, affection collapses. Now ask yourself, how different are you from Lorenzo? If tomorrow you lost your looks, your money, your status, your health, how many people who say they love you would remain? Machiavelli's answer is brutal, far fewer than you think. At this point, your brain may scream, but what about true love? What about the rare soulmates who stay together through sickness and poverty? And yes, such bonds exist, but even they are strategic. Enduring couples are united not only by passion, but by shared goals, by mutual reliance, by the fear of loneliness, by the comfort of routine. Even their loyalty is functional. Remove those mutual benefits, and even the strongest relationships strain. Now, you may be tempted to despair, but here's the twist. Machiavelli did not expose these truths to destroy love. He revealed them to show us its mechanics. When you understand love as strategy, you stop being deceived by illusions. Instead of chasing fantasies of unconditional devotion, you learn to build alliances based on real interests. You stop asking, "Do they love me?" and start asking, "What do they gain from loving me, and what do I gain from loving them?" This shift changes everything. No longer blind, you can finally see relationships for what they are: exchanges of power, needs, and survival. You can choose wisely. You can protect yourself from disappointment. You can even love more strategically, offering what others value while securing what you truly need. That, in Machiavelli's eyes, is not cynicism. It is wisdom. But this is only the beginning. Because if love is always conditional, always strategic, then the next question becomes unavoidable. When forced to choose, should we prefer love or fear? Machiavelli's answer to that question shocked the world in the 16th century. And when you hear it applied to modern life, it will shock you too. If love is an illusion, then what truly binds people together? Machiavelli's answer was far darker than you think. Love versus fear. Machiavelli was ruthless, but he was never naive. He understood a truth most people spend their lives trying to ignore. Love is fickle. Affection can be bought, traded, or lost in an instant. One scandal, one mistake, one moment of weakness, and the same people who swore eternal devotion will turn their backs. Fear, however, endures. Fear is reliable. Fear is survival. That is why Machiavelli in The Prince wrote that if a ruler must choose between being loved or feared, he should always choose fear, because fear keeps people in line even when their hearts wander. Fear makes betrayal too costly. Fear binds people longer than love ever can. Now let's drag this brutal wisdom out of the castles of Renaissance Italy and drop it into your world. Think about your relationships, your friendships, your career. How much of what people call love is actually fear in disguise? A partner may claim to love you, but how much of their loyalty is really driven by the fear of being alone, of losing security, of starting over? A friend may appear devoted, but what portion of that bond is fueled by the fear of losing access to your status, your connections, or your approval? Even children who love their parents deeply obey not just out of affection, but out of the fear of punishment, disappointment, or abandonment. We often imagine fear as the opposite of love, but Machiavelli forces us to see the overlap. Fear doesn't always destroy affection, it often reinforces it. The fear of loss makes people cling tighter. The fear of consequences makes people behave better. The fear of betrayal keeps lovers more attentive. History is littered with rulers who tested this balance. Consider the Roman emperors. Augustus maintained a careful image of generosity: bread for the poor, games for the masses, monuments to honor the people. He cultivated their love. But beneath that generosity was the ever-present fear of his military legions, loyal to him alone. The people adored him, but they also knew what defiance meant. His rule lasted because he mastered both. Contrast this with emperors who leaned too heavily on affection, trying to win popularity without control. They were quickly overthrown. Why? Because the love of the people was not enough when fear of rebellion was absent. Now compare this to your office. Your boss might joke with you, ask about your weekend, and compliment your work. That's the affection side. But what keeps you from ignoring deadlines or walking out early? Not their love, not their approval. Fear. Fear of losing your paycheck, your reputation, your career trajectory. This is modern feudalism with better lighting. The same dynamic appears in romance. People like to believe loyalty is born purely from passion. But often what holds couples together is the fear of what happens if they separate. The fear of loneliness, financial instability, social shame, or wasted years. The love may be real, but the fear is the glue. Now here's the Machiavellian twist. Fear often creates stronger loyalty than love alone. A ruler who is feared can expect obedience even from those who resent him. A partner who inspires fear of loss is less likely to be cheated on. A leader who commands respect through consequences will outlast one who relies on charm. Of course, Machiavelli did not advocate cruelty for its own sake. He was strategic, not sadistic. He warned that fear must never turn into hatred. Hatred sparks rebellion. Hatred poisons relationships. The skill lies in striking a balance, to be loved when possible, but always feared enough to be secure. Think of it like this. Love is a rope made of silk. It is soft, beautiful, pleasant to touch, but it frays easily. Fear is a chain of iron. It is heavy, cold, unyielding. A wise leader, a wise lover, a wise strategist uses both. Wrap the iron chain in silk, and people will not only stay bound, they will thank you for the comfort. Here is a question you must ask yourself. In your own relationships, are you bound by silk or by iron? Does your loyalty to others come from affection alone, or from the fear of consequences if you break the bond? And, more dangerously, what about the people who claim to love you? Is their devotion woven from genuine affection, or from the iron of fear? This is where Machiavelli shocks us most, because when you strip away the illusions, you realize that even your closest ties, your partner, your friends, your family, often depend more on fear than you'd like to admit. Fear of shame, fear of abandonment, fear of loss. And yet, here's the paradox. Relationships rooted only in fear decay into resentment. Relationships rooted only in love collapse when conditions change. But relationships that balance both affection and fear, desire and consequences, those endure. Think of powerful couples in history, Cleopatra and Caesar, Napoleon and Josephine. Their love was intoxicating, yes, but it was also strategic, tied to power, legacy, and the fear of losing influence. Even their passion was weaponized. So let me ask you directly, if you had to choose between being loved or being feared in your own life, in your career, in your relationships, in your family, which would you choose? Love, with its warmth but fragility, or fear, with its coldness but reliability? This is not a hypothetical question. Every day, in small ways, you are forced to choose. Every time you compromise to keep someone happy, every time you assert boundaries and risk displeasure, you are answering Machiavelli's challenge. Love or fear, affection or security. And yet, Machiavelli hinted at something even darker, that love itself can be weaponized. That what looks like affection may actually be a tool of control, used to bind, manipulate, and dominate. If fear is iron and love is silk, then some people weave them together into ropes strong enough to strangle entire empires. But Machiavelli didn't stop there. He saw how love could be turned into a weapon. And that's where modern life gets disturbing. Strategic affection. Today, love, loyalty, devotion, they sound like timeless virtues. But when you strip them down to their core, you discover they are strategies, carefully deployed in every corner of modern life. You don't need to be a prince in Renaissance Florence to see it. All you need to do is open your eyes in the 21st century. Let's start with romantic relationships. Look closely. And you'll notice that what we call love often functions like a contract. The unspoken agreement goes something like this: I will provide you with companionship, affection, and intimacy as long as you provide me with security, validation, and stability. These terms are rarely spoken, but they're always there, humming beneath the surface. When one party feels the contract is broken, the affection fades, the finances falter, the intimacy dwindles, the love withers. What we mistake for a sudden loss of passion is often nothing more than the expiration of an agreement. Think of the countless relationships that collapse not because of betrayal, but because one person no longer fulfills the other's needs. The partner who grows distant after losing their job, the lover who becomes cold once the initial spark fades, the marriage that drifts apart when children grow up, and the shared project disappears. These are not failures of love. They are demonstrations of what Machiavelli understood. Affection lasts only as long as it serves a purpose. Now, shift your gaze to the workplace. Do you really think loyalty to a boss, a company, or a mentor is born purely out of gratitude? Number. It is a survival mechanism. Employees perform loyalty rituals, staying late, laughing at the boss's jokes, defending the company in public, not because they adore their leaders, but because they fear the alternative. Losing status, losing security, losing access to opportunities. A loyal employee is often protecting themselves, just as a flattering courtier once protected their position in a prince's palace. Here's the irony. Companies know this. They carefully cultivate the illusion of family. They plaster their walls with slogans like, "We're all in this together," or "Our people are our greatest asset." But when the numbers dip, when profits are threatened, that family is quickly abandoned. Layoffs prove what Machiavelli knew centuries ago. Affection in politics, business, and life is strategic. It is extended when useful and withdrawn when costly. Even within families, love often functions strategically. Parents sacrifice for children, but as I said before, that sacrifice fulfills deep psychological needs: legacy, purpose, meaning. Children show loyalty to parents, but often out of fear of disappointment, obligation, or the hope of inheritance. Every family gathering, every fight, every reconciliation is tangled in invisible strings of survival and self-interest. Now let me ask you something that will sting. When was the last time you told someone, "I love you"? Why did you say it? Was it pure expression, or was it also a way to reassure them, calm their doubts, strengthen your bond, secure their loyalty? Think carefully. Even the most genuine affection carries a strategic edge. This is where the game becomes fascinating. Because once you realize that all love and loyalty are strategic, you gain power. You stop expecting purity. You stop being blindsided when someone's devotion evaporates. Instead, you begin to ask the only question that matters. What does this person gain by loving me? And what do I gain by loving them? This is your first step toward mastering what I call strategic affection. It's not about rejecting love, it's about understanding its mechanics. When you know the terms of the contract, you can negotiate them. When you see the survival needs at play, you can meet them or exploit them. And when you realize that everyone is playing the same game, you stop being the pawn. I want you to try something right now. Think of one person in your life who says they love you. Don't use their name, just hold them in your mind. Now ask yourself, what do they actually gain by loving me? What need of theirs is fulfilled by my existence? It could be security, status, comfort, validation, or simply the fear of loneliness. Write your answer in the comments, but keep it anonymous. You'll be shocked at how many others see the same patterns. And if this realization is making your stomach twist, if it's forcing you to question every relationship in your life, then you are exactly where you need to be. Because once you see these patterns, you can never unsee them. Subscribe to Ruthless Psychology right now and join a community that dares to look at love without illusions. Together, we uncover the hidden rules of power, control, and influence, the rules everyone else is too afraid to admit. Now, let me reveal something even darker. Strategic affection doesn't only exist in romance, at work, or in families. It can be deliberately engineered, sharpened, and turned into a weapon. Leaders throughout history, from kings to presidents to CEOs, have learned to manipulate love as a tool of control. They don't just receive affection. They manufacture it, amplify it, and weaponize it. They turn the soft silk of love into the strongest rope of power. And you experience this every single day, whether you notice it or not. When a brand convinces you to love their product, when a politician makes you believe they care about you, when a charismatic figure earns your devotion, you are watching the deliberate weaponization of love. That's when love stops being an illusion and becomes a weapon. Weaponizing love and loyalty. By now, you've seen that love is rarely unconditional and that loyalty is often strategic. But what happens when the clever few realize this truth and use it not just to navigate relationships, but to dominate them? This is the darkest Machiavellian lesson. Love can be manufactured, manipulated, and weaponized. Those who understand this do not wait for devotion, they design it. History is drenched in examples. Take Julius Caesar. He wasn't only a conqueror with legions at his back, he was a master of strategic affection. Caesar knew that fear alone could not hold an empire. He needed love, too. He showered his soldiers with wealth, land, and recognition. He addressed them as equals, dined with them, and praised their courage in public. The result? His men adored him. They would march into hell for him. His power came not just from steel and blood, but from engineered devotion. And yet, even Caesar learned the danger of love unbalanced, for Brutus, the man he called a friend, drove the dagger that ended his reign. Fast forward to Napoleon. He understood the mechanics of affection with surgical precision. He gave his soldiers medals, parades, and speeches that made them feel part of something greater than themselves. He wrote letters to Josephine that history remembers as romantic, but they were also strategic, designed to bind her loyalty even as he pursued his ambitions elsewhere. Napoleon turned love into propaganda, loyalty into a weapon. He knew that affection could inspire men to die willingly, something fear alone could never achieve. This art has not disappeared. In fact, it has evolved. Today's politicians are masters of weaponized affection. They tell citizens, "We love the people. We care about families. We fight for you." But beneath the slogans lies Machiavelli's old strategy. They don't need your unconditional love. They need your votes, your obedience, your silence. Their public affection is not personal. It's functional. It's bait. Even corporations wield this power. Think of the brands you love. Do you really love them? Or have they carefully engineered that feeling? Apple convinces you that buying an iPhone makes you part of an elite creative tribe. Starbucks tells you that your coffee is more than caffeine. It's comfort, identity, belonging. Nike whispers, "Just do it," and you feel inspired, loyal, empowered. These are not coincidences. They are deliberate manipulations of the human hunger for connection and meaning. Love becomes a marketing strategy. Loyalty becomes profit. And the same tactics are at play in your personal life. Think about the charismatic partner who showers you with affection, not randomly, but tactically. They praise you when they want something, withdraw when they want control, love bomb you when they fear losing you. Their affection is not chaotic, it's strategic. They weaponize your need to be loved, turning it into their leverage. This is why Machiavelli's insight is so unnerving. Once you see the strings, You cannot unsee them. What feels like genuine devotion may actually be an invisible leash. The words, "I care about you," are sometimes not declarations of affection, but chains disguised as silk. Now, let's get practical. How exactly is love weaponized? The playbook has 3 moves. Reward, give affection when someone behaves in a way that benefits you. Praise them, flatter them, shower them with attention. This conditions loyalty. Withdrawal, withhold affection when they resist. Create anxiety, insecurity, and longing. People will bend over backward to restore the warmth. Fear of loss. Remind them, subtly or directly, that your love is not permanent, that you can walk away, cut them off, move on. The fear of losing you makes them compliant. Sound familiar? That's because these tactics are everywhere, in relationships, in parenting, in offices, in politics, in advertising. Love becomes a currency, rationed and distributed to control behavior. And here's the brutal part. It works. Human beings are wired to seek love, belonging, and recognition. Deprive them of it, and they'll suffer. Offer it, and they'll follow you. A leader who understands this wields more power than one who relies on fear alone, because fear pushes people away. But weaponized love makes them come closer, willingly. So let me ask you, how many times have you been on the receiving end of this? How many times have you chased after someone who withdrew affection, desperate to win it back? How many times have you stayed loyal to a leader, a partner, a brand, not because of genuine devotion, but because they expertly managed your fear of losing their love? If this is cutting into you, if you're starting to see how leaders, lovers, and companies pull your strings, then it's time to stop being a puppet. Hit subscribe to Ruthless Psychology and join a community that exposes these hidden manipulations. Because if you don't understand the rules, you will always be ruled by them. Weaponized love is not just about control, it's about domination disguised as devotion. And the worst part? Most people never realize it's happening until it's too late. But here is the question Machiavelli leaves us with. How do we survive in a world where every affection could be a chain, every I love you could be a strategy, every loyalty could be a trap? Do we retreat into cynicism? Do we abandon love altogether? Or is there a way to master the game without becoming enslaved by it? So how do you survive this brutal truth without becoming cynical? That's where the final law comes in. Mastering the laws of strategic love. By now, you've stared into the abyss. You've seen that love is conditional, that loyalty is strategic, and that affection can be engineered and weaponized. It is tempting at this point to become cynical, to sneer at every gesture of kindness, to suspect every I love you, to pull back from relationships altogether. But cynicism is not strength. It is another form of weakness, a shield that protects you from pain but also blocks you from power. Machiavelli himself was not a nihilist. He did not expose the mechanics of power to drive men into despair. He revealed them so rulers could govern more effectively, so they could see through illusions and act with clarity. The same principle applies to you. Once you understand the laws of strategic love, you are no longer a victim of manipulation. You are no longer naive. You can love more intelligently, more strategically, more securely. Here's how. 1. Expect self-interest. Stop demanding unconditional love. It doesn't exist. When you accept that everyone acts in their own interest, you stop being surprised when people's affections shift. Instead of asking, why did they change? You'll ask, what changed in their needs? This mindset transforms heartbreak into analysis, confusion into clarity. 2. Align interests. The strongest bonds are not built on blind passion, but on aligned interests. Two partners who both want legacy, stability, or adventure will stay united longer than those clinging to love alone. In business, the most durable partnerships are not those filled with affection, but those where each side gains something essential. If you want loyalty, don't demand it. Design it. Create conditions where staying loyal serves both parties better than betrayal. 3. Use strategic affection. Wisely, affection is a tool, not just an emotion. Use it deliberately. Reward behaviors that strengthen the relationship. Withdraw affection when boundaries are crossed. Make it clear through words, tone, and actions that your love is valuable, not free. This doesn't make you manipulative. It makes you respected. People value what they must work to keep. 4. Protect yourself from manipulation. Now that you recognize the playbook, reward, withdrawal, fear of loss, you can guard against it. When someone showers you with sudden affection, ask, what do they want? When someone withdraws, don't chase blindly. Analyze their strategy. When someone threatens to leave, evaluate whether their absence is truly a loss or just a test of control. Awareness turns invisible chains into threads you can cut. 5. Redefine love as strategic partnership. This is the heart of Machiavelli's wisdom. Love, at its strongest, is not blind devotion. It is mutual strategy. It is two people or two allies recognizing that together they are stronger, safer, more fulfilled than apart. This kind of love is not fragile. It is not destroyed by time, change, or hardship. Because it is not built on fantasy, it is built on design. Think about the greatest partnerships in history, Elizabeth I and her advisors, who shared loyalty not out of sentiment, but out of mutual survival. Business empires built by co-founders who divided roles strategically, respecting each other's power. Even marriages that last decades often endure because both partners continually adjust the contract, renegotiating terms, keeping interests aligned. This is what it means to master the laws of strategic love. You don't reject love. You don't worship it blindly. You wield it. You transform it from a chain that binds you into a tool that protects and empowers you. Now, I want you to test this in your own life. Challenge. This week, pick 3 people close to you. For each one, write down the answer to this question. What need of theirs is fulfilled by me? It could be companionship, security, validation, resources, or something else. Then ask the reverse. What need of mine is fulfilled by them? When you see the answers side by side, you will understand the true contract beneath your relationships. Some will look balanced, some will look dangerous, but either way, you will finally see the truth. And here's the real power. Once you see these contracts clearly, you can renegotiate them. You can strengthen the bonds worth keeping, cut the ones that drain you, and design new ones that serve you. This is how you rise above illusions and become the strategist in your own life. But I must give you a warning, the same one Machiavelli implied in his writings. With this knowledge comes responsibility. You could use it to manipulate, to deceive, to control. You could become the lover who love bombs and withdraws. You could become the leader who manufactures devotion only to exploit it. That path leads to isolation, paranoia, and hatred. It destroys more than it builds. The higher path, the Machiavellian path, is to use this wisdom to protect yourself and to build alliances that endure. Not blind loyalty, not empty declarations, but partnerships forged in reality, where both sides understand the stakes and both sides gain. This is not romantic in the Hollywood sense, but it is stronger, it is enduring, it is strategic. So the next time someone tells you they love you, don't dismiss it as a lie. Don't worship it as divine. Ask the only question that matters. What need does this love fulfill, for them and for me? That answer will tell you the strength of the bond, the risks of betrayal, and the true value of their affection. And when you master this, When you stop chasing illusions and start wielding strategy, you will experience a new kind of power. Not the fragile power of being adored blindly, not the temporary power of fear alone, but the enduring power of love as a calculated, deliberate, mutual force. Because here is the final Machiavellian truth: love and fear both fade, but strategy endures. It is the one constant, the silent law that governs every bond, every alliance, every relationship. Master strategy, and you master love itself. So remember this: love is fragile, fear fades, but strategy never dies.